another edition of the Leadership Matters here on from 98.9.
Invited guests who speak on different topics usually of interest to you. This program is used to update you on all the things that are going on in the Federation and allows you to pose questions and make recommendations as well. This evening, the Prime Minister's special guests are his fellow cabinet members in the persons of the Honorable Eugene Hamilton and the Honorable Vincent Byron, who is also the Attorney General. We're going to begin with a presentation by the Prime Minister, after which his guests will make their opening remarks. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Jackie. My fellow citizens and residents, it is truly an honor to engage you tonight again on Leadership Matters. Tonight is even more special because it is the anniversary date of the 2015 general elections, which brought an end to the long reign of the former regime. In its stead, a historic Team Unity administration was elected by the people to deliver a better future to our country. Team Unity emerged as the people's response to a government that had lost its way. The people wanted a more coherent, consistent, and thoughtful approach to governance. From the party moorings of the People's Labour Party, PLP, PAM, CCM, NRP, and Labour, the people rallied for our country to rise above the partisan politics. The people wish to be guided by a broader agenda of country, good governance, yielding positive growth and development for all. Our people wanted a government that is fair and all-inclusive. On February 15, 2015, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis was on the verge of a new beginning, notwithstanding the turmoil and struggle associated with the 26-month shelving of the motion of no confidence, which, in the eyes of many, was an affront to our democracy. Our government, to its credit, has genuinely improved good governance in our country, both legislatively and administratively. We have established by law the Motion of No Confidence Act 2019, a definite period for holding a motion of no confidence. In effect, we have qualified what the Constitution meant by a reasonable time. We have also clarified the role of the Public Accounts Committee, making it possible for its work to be done by an industrious committee of parliamentarians led by the Leader of the Opposition. We regret that the Leader has not yet performed. We have strengthened the judiciary so justice can be swift and certain. We meet the people regularly, and via innovations like Working for You and Leadership Matters, in addition to press conferences and regular sittings of Parliament, we account regularly to the people. Independent entities have hailed our strengthening of democracy as evidenced by our high ranking in independent publications such as the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index. We have operationalized the Procurement Act number 28 of 2012. The board has been meeting regularly to ensure procurement processes and outcomes were proper and dealt with in accordance with the law. Value for money is being assured. Two huge people-centric pillars of our tenure in office are the prosperity agenda and the good governance agenda. 7 years after, we give God the glory for all that we have accomplished for our people and country. Our accomplishments are too many to be enumerated in the course of one night, so I will highlight just a few. As we reflect on the 7-year anniversary of Team Unity, In government, it is apparent that the Team Unity administration has been steering our beloved Federation on a much better path to a stronger, safer future. I want to examine our performance in a few areas, mindful that my cabinet colleagues will be addressing other areas of national interest. The Team Unity promise to provide safer streets and safer communities. 7 years later, we can say that we have kept that promise by delivering more funding, new facilities, and new training opportunities to our police force in particular and our security forces in general. Our recently opened police and fire stations in Sandy Point, Newcastle, the forensic lab in Tabernacle, the brand new SSU headquarters at Fort Lands, and the installation of our CCTV monitoring system all comes readily to mind. The dramatic reduction of heinous crimes of homicide is noticeable. From a high of 35 homicides in 2011 to a low of 10 in 2020, we know our country is safer. With crime detection rate at its highest level since 2000, we know we are doing better and our country is moving in the right direction. Our innovative programs, such as the Alternative Lifestyle Pathway Program and the formation of the Explorers Club, indicate that we were courageous in taking new approaches to rid the country of the scourge of crime. We could not bring back our sons and daughters whose lives were cut short by illegal guns and drugs, but we could and we have consecrated the future and disrupted the intergenerational cycle of gang warfare, strife, the pain and trauma to many families. While we still have a long road ahead, we appreciate that 20 years of neglect of law and order could not be reversed in 7 short years. Nevertheless, we are protecting the young and redirecting the adults to alternative paths to a good and responsible life. I am grateful to all who have given strong support to both these programs, and I commend them for their dedication and commitment. A brief word on the subject of human settlement. Team Unity promised to build bigger and better homes. This was a matter of human security. Indeed, shelter ranks high on Maslow's basic need hierarchy of needs. It was a response to felt needs for our mothers and fathers to own a home and to raise their families in a comfortable environment. With the delivery of bigger homes, we have less families living in overcrowded spaces. Apart from building new homes, we have in our post-hurricane response assisted over 3,000 of our citizens and residents to repair and renovate their homes, and we have done so without regard to their party politics. Our first-time homeowners program offered concessions and building materials to over 800 plus applicants, a huge savings. This is the inclusive approach to governance which we brought to government. Minister Hamilton, I am certain, will further articulate the great success we have had in housing and land ownership. Turning quickly to job creation, we promised to create new jobs. The largest number of jobs ever created in this country was under Team Unity. Social Security records revealed that in 2019, a record of with 29,181 employees and well over 1,300 self-employed persons. A record total wages of over $1 billion was paid for the first time in 2019. Yes, we have kept that promise with good-paying jobs, particularly in the areas of construction and the film industry. No longer are our young people being denied the opportunities they need to make a life for themselves. Many are setting up businesses. Many are receiving scholarships to go abroad and study. COVID-19, of course, has negatively impacted many, but we are getting back on track. I don't think any one of us foresaw COVID-19 and the damage it would do or the uncertainty that it would create. It has been a tough 2 years with challenges we never expected. The good news, however, is that the leadership and resilience of St. Kitts and Nevis stood out, and we as a people managed COVID-19 very well, notwithstanding our small size and fragile health system and economy. My government demonstrated leadership and resilience by delivering 3 stimulus packages in 2020, in 2021, and now in 2022, we are implementing our 3rd round of stimulus packages. We were able to do this because we manage our country well, building up the strongest fiscal buffers in the hemisphere, in spite of paying double salaries many times, in spite of paying off the huge IMF debt, in spite of paying $200 million to reclaim for the people of St. Kitts lands at Utleys, Keon, Sandy Point, and Lamberts, which were poofed away in the land for debt swap. We manage well because of our fundamental principles. The principle of life first, coupled with compassion for each other and the all of society approach. I am proud of the work that we undertook to navigate during these turbulent times. I feel deeply optimistic as we are exiting the pandemic. Team Unity has always focused on strong economic management. We are committed to being fiscally responsible as we continue to provide the stronger and safer future we intend to deliver. I am satisfied that we have worked hard and deliver much on our good governance and prosperity agenda. In closing, I want to thank my coalition partners, the Honorable Sean Richards, Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the People's Action Movement, the Honorable Mark Brantley, Minister of Foreign Affairs and leader of the Concerns Movement. I must thank His Excellency Vance Emery, who was the Honorable Premier of Nevis and leader of CCM in 2015 when Team Unity formed the government. I hail all our achievements as the collective outcome of our working together. Working together, more will be and has been achieved. We provided for the first time since independence a structured arrangement to deliver support to the people of Nevis. And we can say Nevis has had its best experience under Team Unity. What a strong team we make, and what a force for good we are for this federation. Indeed, I want to thank all parliamentary colleagues for their support and for delivering for their local communities. 2 weeks ago, we delivered houses to the people of constituency number 8. And this Friday, we will deliver more houses to persons in constituency 7 in Mansion Village. And then we move to constituency 4 for another distribution of homes, after which we will move to all other constituencies. For example, number 3, number 2, number 1, number 5 and 6. Most importantly, I want to thank you, the residents and citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, for your wonderful support. Thank you for putting your trust not just in my leadership, but in the team, and for your ongoing support. I, as Prime Minister, will always appreciate that you had a choice, and I wish to thank you tonight because you chose Team Unity. I ask that you continue to work with us in our all-of-society approach. Together, let's keep building that stronger and safer future we all want and we certainly deserve. I promise as Prime Minister to do my very best for all, I repeat, all the people of my beloved St. Kitts and Nevis. Tonight I am happy to have joining me the Minister of Human Settlement, the Honorable Jean Hamilton, and our Attorney General, the Honorable Vincent Byron. My prayer tonight is that God will continue to bless and protect the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and help our country to advance and our prosperity agenda. Thank you again for tuning in.
Prime Minister, for setting the scene for our topic this evening, strengthening the foundations of our nation with good governance and better housing. And to provide more information on that topic, we'll now hear from the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton?
Good evening to all viewers and listeners to this most popular and informative program. This program today is historic, if only for two reasons. One, it commences the 2022 series of Leadership Matters, and two, we are commemorating, and it coincides with the 7th anniversary of the Team Unity government that was ushered in 2015. 7 is a powerful number, symbolizes wisdom, self-awareness, and intuition. So at 7, this Team Unity administration is wiser, we are self-aware, and of course we are intuitive, though we do not throw to the window any rationalization of issues. So on this 7th anniversary, I am proud to participate in this public discourse of the performance of my government during those 7 years. This evening I will focus primarily on housing, since so many persons have been telling me it is topical. I superintend over that ministry, the Ministry of Human Settlement, and under this we have the Housing Ministry, and of course NHC is a part of that ministry. So first and foremost, housing, which is a subset of the Ministry of Human Settlement, will be my focus. When the Team Unity government took office, NHC had been serving from 1996 to 2015. That's almost 20 years. During that period, NHC engaged in the construction of homes, and at that point, at the end of 2014, the data showed that NHC had reached somewhere between 1945, over which they were directly governing, and 2008, which were under CARIFESTA, Development Bank, and other institutions. Since then, the National Housing Corporation, under this Team Unity administration in those 7 years, has added 504 homes in this federation at least on St. Kitts. They are broken down, and forgive me for putting them by constituency. In constituency number 1, we have delivered 50. In constituency number 2, we have delivered 73. In constituency number 3, we have delivered 35. In constituency number 4, we have delivered 75. In constituency number 5, we have delivered 59. In constituency number 6, we have delivered 21. In constituency number 7, we have delivered 65. And in my own constituency, constituency number 8, we have delivered 126. This is a significant achievement in this short period, given the fact that from early 2020, we have been plagued by the pandemic, which has disrupted life as we knew it, causing much of the sector to be slow in producing homes during that particular period. So I am pleased that in my own constituency, if I may go there, that in St. Peter's alone, we can claim 68 homes have been affected by construction under the National Housing Corporation. 68 in St. Peter's. I've spoken about those numbers, 504, and these do not include 24 units at Ponds near the bus terminal. They are one-bedroom studio apartments, and there are 24 of them. This number of which I spoke, do not include 15 Petrocasas homes, which the Prime Minister earlier mentioned will be delivered on Friday. So those two numbers together mean that another 39 families will benefit from the work of the Team Unity administration. But apart from what's taking place at NHC, and there's much to talk about that NHC is engaged in, you'll notice that I did not mention the HELP program. There is Layamiga Housing, which we have engaged to meet the needs of the middle-income homeowner who would not ordinarily qualify for homes through the NHC program. This company, which is headed by a local entrepreneur, Mr. Dion Daniel, has already begun work in the area of Keyon and will continue work through Tabernacle, Sandy Point, and West Farm. This company intends to build over 150 homes, putting more than $160 million into the economy over the next 4 to 5 years. At this point, I would like to congratulate the entrepreneur, Dion Daniel, for rising to the task, rising to the challenge that has been given to him to deliver to the middle-income homeowner. And I should spend a minute on the middle-income homeowner because there are many individuals who usually apply for homes from National Housing Corporation whose income is beyond what National Housing Corporation would normally entertain. And yet they may be challenged to get the banks, the financial institutions, to provide them with a loan to build what I will consider to be their dream home. Those persons in that middle who are usually faced with that dilemma should find it easy to approach Layamiga Housing that will provide them with a home completed and semi-furnished with a steady monthly income which will not attract any more than 2.5% on that investment. It is, in my view, a steal. It is, in my view, something that all young people, especially those who are returning from university and starting their families, to take advantage of. But apart from Lime-Eagle Housing, TDC has been engaged, and we have engaged TDC and facilitated them. And at Duas, TDC has embarked on a housing program that will be for middle to upper income persons in our society. I invite you, I was there, all of the facilities are in, and I invite you to take advantage of that opportunity that TDC is providing with its home at Duas. At the moment, the ministry is looking at applications from several companies, and we do encourage local companies to get engaged. Those two companies in particular that with which we are having discussions, I will not name them, but I will say that they should be close to getting responses from the government based on the questions that they have asked for duty-free and other concessions, and I look forward to them joining in the construction of homes in our federation. The Prime Minister did speak about Pedro Casas. PDB has been involved with our housing program as well, and I should point out that in Bastia, on Wellington Road, you have seen 24 units, really very attractive, and I was inside some of them recently, and they are really very accommodating to a small and medium-sized family. And while 24 have already been distributed, there is another 6 being built on the same compound, which means that 6 more families will be accommodated there. That is added also to the 24 that I mentioned earlier. The Prime Minister mentioned, and I will just restate, that 800 applicants benefited during this time, this 7-year period, from duty-free concessions on building materials. It is a program that has been available to those who have made applications, and the Team Unity Administration has accommodated every application that has been made under that program. Of course, further, the government itself sponsored a program for public servants, at which millions of dollars, the first sum was 30 million, that was put in the development bank for public servants to benefit from. They had duty-free concessions up to 350,000 if you're a single person, and if you're a couple, up to $500,000. I trust that public servants have taken advantage of that opportunity. But I will return to NHC because I heard the question poised at some point, how do you own a home from NHC? I want to suggest that one of the things any person who wants to own a home should do is to begin to save. My good friend on my left likes me to say, be thrifty. Begin to save. Demonstrate that you can put aside monthly a sum that will be put towards the owning of your home. It is the single largest investment you'll probably make in your lifetime, and therefore you should take it seriously. But through NHC, make an application. You make an application to National Housing Corporation, and the details would be sought by the team at NHC, and you will find that your application may be met and should be met positively. There are some persons in the country who have land allocated to them in their possession, and some who have some savings of their own. I think that you are a good candidate for getting funding for your home. Why? Because you may have the savings and you may not be able to attract a bank loan. And where does that leave you? It means that you're a good candidate for NHC to work with to own your own home. Those persons without land, we have one or two areas, and certainly we'll be working with the Ministry of Sustainable Development to obtain land so that we can do some clusters here and there. When that is done, again, because of your application, you will be afforded the opportunity to own your own home. Apart from that, NHC has built for the poor and indigent. For the poor and indigent. The poor and indigent has benefited. We have some homes in St. Peter's, in Parry, and you can see how they have benefited from our program. I think we've had a limited time to give our opening statement, and I stand ready to answer any questions on housing and on any other aspects of my ministries, which the moderator Jackie announced earlier. So I will close by saying that this Team Unity administration in 7 years has done marvelous work. I will say second to none. The former leader of PAM and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, now deservedly elevated to the national hero status, said something which has remained with me. He said the sum total of our individual efforts working together is far greater than our individual efforts working alone. So on this 7th anniversary, I believe those words still ring true. It is an opportunity for us to work together and respond to the needs of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis for another 7 years and another 7 years. I thank you.
And I thank you, Minister Hamilton, for updating the people of this country on the happenings in that area. We now hear from the Honorable Vincent Byron. Mr. Byron.
Thank you very much, our Chairperson, Ms. Jacqueline Bryant. I would want to acknowledge first the presence of the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, and my other cabinet colleague, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, as we come to inform, to explain, and to account to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis of our government's stewardship to date in this edition of Leadership Matters. This evening, I want to speak about Team Unity's continuing efforts in pursuing a good governance agenda here in our country. Restoring democracy, along with our highly successful prosperity agenda, were the two pillars upon which the Team Unity movement built its campaign. When we first came to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis in 2013 to replace the Douglas Labour Party administration and to usher in a new, fresh administration to take St. Kitts and Nevis forward. And we are proud. We are proud that over the past 7 years, from February 16th, 2015 to now, that we have fulfilled and continue to fulfill democratic ideals based on the rule of law as we pursue a good governance agenda. One would recall that the then leader of the opposition, the Honorable Mark Brantley, would have filed a motion of no confidence with the Parliament, the clerk of the Parliament, in Prime Minister Denzil Douglas and his government on the 11th of December 2012, and that for some 26 months, the Speaker of the day and the minority Labour Party on the government benches refused to table the motion in Parliament and to be voted out of office against all democratic ideals. We also recall a number of other maneuvers that were clearly undemocratic that plagued our country during that time. For instance, the attempts to pass an unconstitutional increase in senators' bill, the removal of the place of birth field from our passports that led to a FinCEN advisory by the U.S. Treasury Department, and the withdrawal of visa-free access to Canada by its government, and the near collapse of our CBI program. But it was the unscrupulous way in which the past Douglas administration went into Parliament and tried to change the constituency boundaries on 16th January 2015, which has since been adjudged pretty null, void, and of no effect by the High Court of Justice here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Tomorrow, the 16th February 2022, marks 7 years since the Team Unity administration came to office. Our government, over the years, has believed in the rule of law and the principle of good governance. We have upheld and continue to uphold the universal principles that the government and its officials and agents are accountable under the law, that the laws are clear, publicized, stable, fair, and protect fundamental rights, including the security of persons and their property, that the process by which the laws are enacted, administered, and enforced is accessible, fair, and efficient, and that access to justice is provided by competent, independent, and ethical adjudicators, attorneys or representatives, and judicial officers who are sufficient in number, have adequate resources, and reflect the makeup of the communities they serve. Since 2015, we have enhanced the administration of justice with the addition of a second High Court judge in Bastia, and constructed a second High Court chamber, judicial chamber, which allows the dedication of a judge to civil court matters and a judge to criminal court matters. This has worked very well in reducing the backlog of cases and creating a better access to justice for all. Under our watch, the use of technology, such as the electronic litigation portal used for filing matters in court, and Zoom virtual hearings, especially under the COVID pandemic that we have had, have continued to pay dividends. Mediation services have also improved with a significant increase in trained court-connected mediators, and we urge and encourage more of our citizens to take advantage of this alternative dispute resolution mechanism in which to settle their disputes in a timely and cost-effective manner. In the magistrates' courts, we now have 3 court chambers in District A in Bastia and 2 chambers in District B at Sandy Point and Dieppe Bay. We have now introduced a night court in Bastia to allow litigants in some matters like traffic court and soon to be available maintenance court to attend court in the evenings and avoid having to take time off from work during the day. We continue to provide assistance to the less fortunate through the Legal Aid and Advice Center, which caters to a wide range of legal services and court representation. An important area of help is in making our citizens aware of planning, how you want to leave your real property and other possessions when, God forbid, you pass on. Over the past 2 years, during this time of the COVID pandemic, the administration of justice is alive and well in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have also added new dedicated legal services. There's now in Bastia at East Independence Square a new law library. We have a dedicated land registry in the former CNC building, and we continue to give support to the intellectual property office. The Law Commission now publishes all our laws online at www.lawcommission.gov.kn, and we also publish other very important and pertinent information from the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs at www.legal.gov.kn. At this latter webpage, the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs, we publish court lists of cases being tried. We also publish the electoral voters lists, that is the annual register of voters, and monthly lists, so that anyone can check their name to see that they are properly registered to vote. In addition to all of that, this administration is committed to ensure that new constituency boundaries will be produced in a proper constitutional way that can stand scrutiny. A new Constituency Boundaries Commission has been installed, and this commission is made up of the new chairman, Mr. James Buchanan, a licensed land surveyor, and for the government side in that commission from Parliament, the Honorable Sean Richards, Deputy Prime Minister, sits along with the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, and from the opposition benches is the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas and the Honorable Jeffrey Hanley. The Commission will have to meet to decide whether the boundaries that now exist follow the constitutional rules and whether there needs to be a change. The rules specify that each constituency must be near equal in the number of inhabitants. What does this mean? So that the population of St. Kitts must be divided by the number of constituencies in St. Kitts. And we get a number. And the population of Nevis must be divided by the number of constituencies in Nevis. But each constituency in each island must be nearly equal in number to each other. And I heard earlier, for instance, and I could say this first, that currently we have a situation where some constituencies are very, very big compared to other constituencies, and this should be corrected. For instance, my colleague Minister Hamilton made reference to the point that in Keyon, his constituency, he distributed over 120 houses and said, wow, Minister is looking out for himself. But constitution number 8, where he runs, is 3 times the size of constituency number 5. And so you can see where in some constituencies they are much larger than others. The Commission must also decide whether to keep the same number of seats in St. Kitts and the same number of seats in Nevis for the next federal election. We must remember, though, that if there is a decision by the Commission to increase the number of seats in St. Kitts, the Constitution says that whatever that number be, that Nevis must have at least 1/3 of the total number of seats from the both added together. Currently, we have 8 seats in St. Kitts and 3 seats in Nevis. And that is not 1/3, that's less than 1/3. But if seats were to be increased in St. Kitts, then whatever that number be, Nevis must have 1/3 of the total number of seats, so that we could have 4 and 8. Can we? It's 4 and 8, or we can have 5 and 15. 5 and 10, which adds to 15. So it must be 1/3 if there are to be any changes in the number of seats. Nevis must have 1/3 of the total number. The Commission must produce a report that goes to the Governor General, after which the Prime Minister must draft a resolution which goes to Parliament for Parliament to vote on any changes. Under the Good Governance agenda, we have also committed to make certain changes to our electoral system. The Electoral Commission has met and made a number of recommendations which they will like to see implemented to assist in the proper conduct of elections. They recommend, for instance, that preliminary counts should be conducted at the polling stations by the presiding officers before going to the returning officers as a central location. Of course, there's still the debate concerning the need for a residency requirement in order to vote at an election. I also should mention that the Integrity in Public Life Commission has also been constituted, having passed this bill during our watch. This commission has begun its work. It is headed by retired High Court Judge, Madam Justice Pauletta Lands, and has on it Mrs. Caroline Body and Mr. Dennis Freddie Knight as its members. Retired Director of Audit, Mr. Albert Edwards, serves as the Chief Executive Officer to the Commission. The Commission continues to work to streamline the regulations that are needed to properly discharge their function, and it is likely that recommendations to amend the Act governing their work should be tabled in Parliament shortly. Finally, the Commission awaits the order establishing the date to begin receiving declarations of assets that are required of those who fall under the Act, which include all members of Parliament and government, the Cabinet, senior public servants, and chairpersons and others of statutory corporations, and so forth. As I close, I want to assure all citizens that they are equal before the law in St. Kitts and Nevis, that the country is founded on the rule of law and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Vincent Byron. At this stage, we are anxious to hear from you for the first time for the year, and the numbers in which you can do so, share your feedback, questions, or suggestions, we have call-in numbers and we have WhatsApp numbers. So the call-in numbers are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line for persons who live abroad is 1-239-645-4500. Now the WhatsApp numbers are 661-5683, that's 661-5683, or 660-7186, that's 7186. The calling numbers are listed at the bottom of your screen for your convenience, so you can also refer to them there. So we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to open up the phone lines.
On the 20th of January, 1623, Sir Thomas Warner and his family, along with 14 others, landed at Fish Bay, a small secluded inlet in Old Road. There, they established the first English colony in the West Indies. Long before their arrival, Carib Indians had established a village in the nearby Wingfield Mountains. The high ground and plentiful water supply from the permanent streams provided the ideal conditions for growing many food crops. The Caribs, realizing the wealth of the soil, named the island Liamiga, the fertile island. From Old Road, one can visit Wingfield, once a popular sugar estate and now the citrus growing center of the island. Here, the air is fresh and cool, tinged with the sweet smell of ripening fruit. In the 1640s, Wingfield developed into a major sugar plantation and one of the very few on the island to use water to power its factory works. The winding road through the rainforest leads to Romney Manor, where a 200-year-old bell tower hangs over the landscape, a reminder of the past when sugarcane dominated the market. Romney Manor is home to the Caribel Batik, where the ancient art of producing designs on cloth is perfected. Today, nestled in between all this history is the Gideon Force Organic Farm. The Gideon Force farmers stay grounded in history, utilizing ancient farming techniques based on biblical attributes. The no chemical use can be dated back to the first farm, the Garden of Eden. Their initial aim is to provide healthy and clean food options for all. On this farm, everything is recycled, reused, and is considered clean of impurities. Organic products reduce public health risk to farm workers, their families, and consumers by minimizing their exposure to toxic and persistent chemicals on the farm and in food. The farm's historian, Elder Ira, demonstrates one of the oldest methods of food preparation, cooking on stones in yaba pots. A yaba pot is an earthenware cooking utensil used for making ital food. It is made from local clay and fired in a kiln until it is baked and ready for use. On today's menu, ital soup. Ital is the name that Rastafarians use to describe their way of cooking. Everything earthical, no meat, lots of coconut milk, and no salt unless it came naturally from the earth, from ground provisions. Not only does organic production help reduce public health risks, mounting evidence shows that food grown organically are rich in nutrients. The Gideon Force Organic Farm is making its mark in the island's history.
Here we are about to add our vegetables to the pot so that we can get into our cooking as usual. When the pot boils, let the vegetables pre-boil, then we add our seasoning and the other ingredients, so to speak. Here we are adding in the beans. We have some kidney beans that we are adding to the stew. Well, we normally boil our peas or beans first, and then while the provisions are boiling or probably half cooked, then we add the beans and the other ingredients to the pot. So here we are now adding our beans to our pot.
And you can use whatever kind of bean that you like to use. Today we use the red kidney beans.
And here we are adding our seasoning. We have a little bit of shallot or the herbs,
Scallion.
We have seasoned pepper, sweet pepper. We have onions, garlic, a little bit of ginger.
This is the way we flavor the pot. Instead of using the salt. This is like our salt for our pot, technically. So this also has benefits. Cabbage is similar to green bean, as a leaf drop it that it will be covered. So now the pot now having most of the heavy ingredients. The elder chain all the solid ingredients.
Yes, give thanks. Hail the Most High, Jah Rastafari, the merciful Father, Father of all ages, Father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Father, I thank you for this day. So, Father, I ask thee to bless I, bless the works of I hands this day, as I perform a traditional way of ITEL cooking. So, Father, bless the food, bless the works of I hands. And remember those that do not have and help us to also share. Father, I ask that you guide and protect I from all dangers, accidents, pestilence, and diseases. Father, I ask these things to Yahshua Emmanuel the Christ and Haile Selassie for Hail Yai. Jah Rastafari.
Old Road has lots to offer. Over the centuries, this small fishing community has risen in prominence, but hasn't lost any of its old world charm. It isn't unusual to see a fishing boat pulled up on a nearby beach, surrounded by village folks selecting their pick of the day's catch, or farmers coming down from the hills with their harvest. Through it all, we cannot escape the dignity that cloaks the Old Road community, that sets it apart from all others, making it an integral part of our history. Join the In Your Kitchen team on another community adventure when we explore the town of Basseterre.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I'm your moderator this evening. His special guests are the Minister of Human Settlement, National Health Insurance, Social Security, Ecclesiastical Affairs, Social Development and Gender Affairs, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, and the Attorney General, the Honorable Vincent Byron, who is also the Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs. The topic for this evening is strengthening the foundations of our nation with good governance and better housing, and that's why both the Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs and the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, Minister of Housing, is here, Human Settlement. So we are now going to the phone lines to take your calls. We're at that part of the program. We are eager to hear from you, and we're going to go to the phone lines and welcome our first caller for this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening, Ms. Bryan.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you, and thank God. How are you?
I'm not bad at all. Good evening, Mr. PM Harris. Good evening, Minister Hamilton. And good evening, AG Byron. Happy anniversary to you gentlemen on the February the 15th on the marriage of the PLP, CCM, and PAM. Let's hope that the marriage lasts many more years to come. Mr. Hamilton, I heard a recording of the assignment of the houses up in Stapleton, I think it was, yes. And in that recording, something I heard on Straight Talk, you had mentioned that you anticipated that the cost of the houses were going to increase from 165,000. The NHC houses were going to increase from 165,000 each to something like 225,000. I can understand, yes, that the cost of living worldwide has gone up on lumber and building material and all sorts of things, including food and that kind of thing. But then, how does one expect the persons who normally occupy or apply for an NHC house to be able to meet the mortgage payments against a cost of 225,000? Do you plan to build half a hogsheads as a previous administration had done, or do you plan to not finish the houses, don't paint them, and don't put in kitchen cupboards, as again the previous administrations had done? I'll be listening off here to find out how you intend to do that. I might want to suggest, though, that you might want to have a committee put together of a wide cross-section of the public to advise on ways and means in which persons, NHC may be able to reduce the mortgage cost for some of these new inhabitants of these proposed to $25,000 homes. It does seem a bit exorbitant for a low-income or an affordable house. Have a good evening, gentlemen. I'll be listening for your answer.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night, and I want to say welcome back to Leadership Matters. I'm so happy that the Prime Minister returned the new year with Leadership Matters, and you, Ms. Bryan, are the moderator. Let's jump right into the question. Let me continue where the guy left off in terms of Stapleton. Mr. Hamilton, Honorable, why was the decision made to build townhouses in Stapleton instead of single homes? Would we be seeing more of these townhouses in different constituencies? Now, there was a poster circulating saying that 2 more houses were supposed to be built in Stapleton, and it was not done. If this is true, can you let the public know why? Also, on Mr. Hamilton, when will the houses be given out in Conyers? Now, there's a rumor about Social Security and its funds will be done with by 2030. If this is true, can we get some clarification on what is really going on with Social Security fund? Or is it just a rumor that persons are trying to get at you and get at Social Security Board? Now, let me say congrats to the police force, because we have seen crime is trending down. And I'm very, very happy to see that. The Peace Initiative program showed significant, the way it set out. Remember when the peace program started, there was a lot of bashing about it. But we have seen there's evidence that the Peace Initiative program is doing good. And I would like at least 3 positive of this program, and that will be Mr. Byron. Now, Team Unity, congrats on your 7th-year anniversary. And with that said, we have seen the farmers, we have benefited significantly. And I must acknowledge the PS, Mr. Ron Collins, for leading and doing a great job in farming. I myself, as a farmer, have benefited. And just to name a few of some of the programs since the PS Ron Collins took charge, you had the Farmers Assistance Program in materials, you had the discount in animal feed, all animal feed, you had the discount in medication, and also basically you also had the backyard assistance, free seedling, and the goat breeding program. This actually shows that Team Unity is working. It actually shows that PM Harris, as the leader, is leading this team in the right direction. I will continue to listen off here. This is Bucky, and Bucky, I got it. Over and out.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Now, a special good evening to the Attorney General and a special good evening to Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm going to leave you for last. Okay. Now, Mr. Hamilton, in the time you build your house was cost less than a 2-bedroom house. Because you got about 30 rooms over there in your house. And the more rooms you had, is the cheaper the house. Right? So I want you to have some considerate on the poor people who just want a little knock up so they could live a little bit comfortable. And it's an obligation to the government to make sure that people are not homeless. Now, Mr. Attorney General, now, I tried to reach your office many, many times, but I could never get to you, although we are neighbors. I walk down there, they say you're in a meeting. I call back, they say you're gone out. I leave my number and everything. I just want to do a little thing to you, Mr. Attorney General. Now, I down at Port Zante. I remember the Honorable Prime Minister made a statement and saying that the people at Port Zante, the tenants at Port Zante, the Bay Road, and the Pelican Mall will get 6 months free for the term of the epidemic we had. I was denied. But a gentleman got he one, and other people got the one, and me get none. I don't want to call it politics. I don't want to call it nothing. But that's why I try to see you many times. And if you get the opportunity, you can invite me to your office and I will bring and show you what I'm talking about. Because I think it's unfair to me as a citizen of St. Kitts. And I will let you know, I voted Pam. So I should not be an object and say, well, he is a unity and he is a PLP and he's a farmer labor. So they will victimize him. I don't think them things is right. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to congratulate you for the strength and the courage you have. That you have to put up with certain things you don't want to hear. But I notice you ain't swaying on the Bible and you put God in front all the time. All the time you put God in front. You understand me? And I notice you ain't swaying on the Bible. But if things is not working out for you, you're a young man still. I will not want you to encourage to go that kind of route and so on. That your administration have some good and some bad ones in there, and they're going to bring down the whole team unity. This is the best thing ever happened to St. Kitts in 100 years. The team unity government. And everybody was looking forward for it. Nobody was seeing Pam Labour, UPP, this and that. Everything was unity. And I'm sorry that some are destroying the mantle of team unity. But I could tell you, I'm not your advisor. But I'm going to give you a little hint. Shuffle the pack. Good night. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for contributing to this evening's program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Lady Jacqueline.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
And good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. Happy New Year to you. And good evening, Mr. Hamilton. Happy New Year. And Mr. AG. Happy New Year to you all. And happy birthday to Team Unity Government. Even though some political doctors gave Team Unity administration 6 months to live, we have passed a lot of 6 months and we now at 7 years. So happy birthday to Team Unity. Now, Mr. Hamilton, I want to congratulate you for the concern you have shown to the nation about people who needed houses to make their home. So I will say praises be to you from God. You are doing a great job. Keep it up. But there are certain things that, we think is a little bit exorbitant on the cost of some of the houses compared to the wages of some of the people who get them. And some of the people who intend to get a house. And we know you will look into that. Now, Mr. AG, I have about 2 questions for you and a suggestion. Now, I want to let you know this as the Attorney General. When someone let go threats, whether publicly on the street or any media platform, that should be taken very serious. Because in 2017, 2 years after the unity government went in the administration, some threats was made on a radio platform that from a political personnel that they will do the endeavor to take Timothy Harris out of government headquarters. And 3 months after those threats was made, a refugee was caught at Newton Ground Bay with a sniper's rifle and a telescope on it. Now, only God will come down and tell me, radical culture, that that person did not get a job, an invitation to come here to shoot somebody. Because when you run away and you're smuggling, you walk with very little luggage. And for someone to come in here in our country illegally with that tells the whole world you come to do a job. Now, the penalty for that kind of thing there, that individual should have been in jail for no less than 20 years. Not just take with the gun or whatever it is and send him back. So I am asking you, Mr. Attorney General, why that individual never been in prison for that? That is that one they know. And the other one, last year, December, a boat was caught in Nevis, bringing in 17 Haitians, passengers. Well, the passengers, they are innocent because they could not swim come here. So the captain and the co-captain of that ship, of the boat that bring them here, I don't like the penalty. And I think the penalty should have been 10 years each, not 2 years each, because it's only 18 months. When you check it out, each one going to get in jail. Because just like how they could bring in people illegally at the back door, they could have bring in guns and ammunition and drugs and all kind of thing. And especially with this COVID devil that we got here destroying the whole world, God only knows what else they're going to bring here concerning that. So, Mr. Attorney General, I would like you to go in the House of Parliament and step up the penalty for these kind of crime that people committed. Anyway, time short, and other people want to get in, so let me be considerate to other people. Good night, have a good night.
Thank you so much for your kind consideration, and a happy new year to you as well. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Greetings, Jackie.
Hi. Greetings.
And greetings to the panel. And best of health to the panel. And best of health on the anniversary of the administration. Housing. Many times, I'm just talking from observation. Many times, government build houses. It'll be a more cramped for land space for the tenants of the houses. When private ownership build houses, you see a more adequate land space for those houses. The question I'm asking, Robert Bradshaw, before I ask a question, make this statement to back the question that I will ask. Mr. Robert Bradshaw acquired the lands. Simmons NRP administration paid for the lands. The question I'm going to ask, when Team Unity entered into office, what was the official position of those lands that being acquired on board for the people of this country. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you so much, sir, for your question. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to the panelists.
Good evening.
Special good evening to the Honorable Prime Minister. And good evening to the other panelists. This is Sir Dr. Elvis. I am very proud of the Prime Minister for his strength, for the challenges that he faces and the things that he getting done. When I look at him, I give him not 5 months, I want to give him 10 years as the leader of the country. When I look back and the things that I see done in the country, the whole island men were done in one term. Not from 1980 to now. Nobody do island men road until 20 years after. Whole island men road done. Bus terminal. Ferry terminal. Put them in battle. I think he deserves some credit. And all you're getting in the politics in saying it is fighting down. I am not one of well loved, but I must be jacket before then. And I want to say that the Prime Minister is strong. And I think the Lord will bless him more. Have a nice night.
For participating in the program. We'll take one more call before we break, get some responses, and I'm sure we'll be able to go back to the phone lines. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I would like to ask, first of all, welcome back and Happy New Year to one and all. I would like to ask an update because I think for the budget, he was talking about step workers, and for the New Year's end, we can get step workers can get a loan. So I would like to know what time and what date step workers will go over to government so we can actually go get a loan to clear up our bills or whatever step workers have to do.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Made a note of your question. I'm told we have one more call for now. We'll take that call and then we'll get some responses from the panelists and the Prime Minister. So welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
A pleasant good evening, Jackie.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Okay, I just called in to wish the Team Unity government happy anniversary. But however, I want to take time out and commend my Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris. Dr. Timothy Harris, I want to congratulate him for a job well done for all these years, leading the Team Unity ship. Prime Minister Harris, hold the fort and stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, because you are a God-fearing man, and the Lord loves you and you love the Lord, and he will see you through. Once again, I want to say to you, Prime Minister Harris, that I am home here and my door are open. Thank God for the peace initiative that I can in my house and sleep with my door open. And thank you for all what you are doing for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. May God bless you, sir. Have a pleasant good night and get home safe. Love you, PM, to the moon and back. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ending the calls on a very energetic note there. So thank you so much for contributing to this evening's program. Gentlemen, we have quite a number of questions before us, and I believe we can begin with the first call, and it's about NHC houses. The person said that they anticipated that the cost of NHC houses would increase, and they made reference to a recording. Mr. Hamilton, you might be familiar with that. He asked, how does one expect occupants to meet the mortgage payments? And he suggested that a committee be put together to discuss how NHC may reduce mortgage costs. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Thank you, Jackie. That caller raised those concerns, and I think it ties into what another caller below, who is the neighbor of the Attorney General on the port, the rumor about but no, we should give consideration to the reducing the cost of the houses. So when I respond to that one, I guess it will answer both callers. But I want to go to what came before, because there was a question about the houses at the Bay Road. The Irish Town. What was the Irish Town Bay Road. In 2015, with a problem left by the previous administration with sewage. At that Gardens housing complex, sewage was the major problem, not only affecting those who lived in the homes, but those passers-by. And I recall some of the persons who lived in the homes argued about sewage backing up all the way into their kitchen facilities. The Team Unity administration set about and restored proper sanitation to that place, removing and replacing the sewage system there. Then, and we have subsequently replaced it again. So that we took it from a place where it was in very bad shape and did something about that. And then, recognizing the quality, the way Bastia was, with those houses pulling down the ambience of the area, we set about and repaired all 3 buildings, produced new windows for some apartment that had windows lost, and we also refurbished the entire exterior portion of all of those houses. When you look at them now, they look in very great condition. And yes, we have work to do on some of the interior households, and that is the next phase that we have to look forward to. But I mentioned what has been done before to tell you that this Team Unity delivers, and that is another phase on which we will deliver. We have done 1 or 2 of them, and I don't want to use this as an excuse, but I want to make the point that really government is heavily subsidizing it to a point where we have to call on the government to subsidize it even more. So to the caller, let me assure you that we have heard you. In fact, we have been ahead of you in making efforts to ensure that we can restore as much as possible the interior of all of those homes. The caller before, I think it was Dwyer. Well, sounded like Dwyer. About the 165 and the 235. Oh, it's Gene Howell. My goodness, I apologize to you, sir. Gene Howell. Thank you for that call, Gene. Yes, at St. Peter's I did make the comment that the technical people at National Housing Corporation, they have told me that because of price increases in construction material, that building a home in 2022 will be far more expensive than building it in 2021 or 2020 or 2019. And having heard that, we have asked them to go back to the drawing board with redesigning and looking at how we could reduce the cost of construction. And I take your point that perhaps we need a committee to make suggestions. That is always a good thing when you have more voices, more persons engaged. Ideas will come that you may not yourself have. And so I take that particular point. How does one expect to pay for these houses at these exorbitant prices? The government has been subsidizing very heavily. In fact, at Baker's Corner, where we just gave out those 24 units, the government has subsidized that particular project quite heavily, I can tell you. occupants are paying, if I may say so, at least $350 less than the real cost to cover those houses. The cabinet took a decision to subsidize that project, and we have taken decisions to do that in other cases. So where government can subsidize, it will, and where we can redesign and remodel the houses so that we can make it less costly, then we will do that. And let me repeat, I take your recommendation to put together a committee that can respond and provide information that will help us to reduce the cost of those homes. Why was the decision made to build townhouses rather than single homes? That was a question. Well, it's not a new decision really, if you think about it. The previous administration has built townhouses before. There were some that were built next to the People's Action Movement headquarters, close enough to the CFBC. We are aware of those. So it is not a new idea. The administration before us embraced it. This administration has also done it. In fact, one may argue that they want individual homes, but let it be known that we do not have an infinite amount of land. So at some point, we must recognize that we cannot just expand, and when we need land for agriculture or other economic activities, we have none. So from time to time, when feasible, you will find that government will build properties, and some will own apartments, perhaps in the air, with the introduction of new legislation to accommodate that. It's not a new concept, caller. It was done before, and it has worked. If you go to Pine Garden, that was done there by the previous administration as well, and it was done when we came to office. When will the houses in Conyers be distributed? That was a question. At the St. Peter's event, I stated that in March, I think it was the 15th, that I said at that time, you must forgive me if my date is off, but I think it was the 15th of March that I gave as a date to give out those houses in Conyers. In fact, on that occasion, I did say that was the next phase, but now we have the Prime Minister that has his phase on board for Friday coming. So we will be in his constituency on Friday dealing with the distribution of those Petro Casas houses. And the last one, rumor about Social Security. Let me see if I can respond to that this way. In 2005, the 8th actuarial report said that the Social Security Fund, let me read it exactly, if I can here. It says, the fund is projected to be depleted in 2052. That was in 2005, the 8th actuarial report. And they went on to say, expenditure expressed as a percentage of insurable wages is expected to gradually increase, surpassing the 11% contribution in 2021, reaching heights of around 26% of insurable earnings. And they were proposing that if nothing is done, 10, 12 years from now, we will have to be paying more. The 9th actuarial report said that the current reserves together with future contributions will be sufficient to meet the future expenditure to 2043. The 9th actuarial report was in 2008. So it went from 2052 to 2043, down. Then, and this is all online. You can go online and look up the St. Kitts actual report. All of them are there. I don't have the 2010, the 10th actual report for 2011, But the 11th actual report says the fund will be depleted between 2037 and 2041. That is down from where it was in 2005 of 2052 down to 2041. The 12th actual report, which was for 2017, it says the fund will be depleted by 2041. This actual report for 2020 under this administration says the fund will be depleted between 2038 and 2043, which means the fund has gained 2 years under this administration. It is trending in a direction. But the bottom line point, which I think the actuary is trying to make to us, is that we have to do something about the level of contributions now. If not, by 2040, it will take 27% to 30% of your income to fund the benefits. So it means that I will be discussing with Cabinet shortly what we're going to do to make sure that the fund is solvent in the future.
And we had one more question. I appreciate your taking notes on the questions that you were to answer. But we had one that asked about 2 additional houses that were to be built and were not.
Thank you. That is an important one. I think it is. At the event on Friday, the program stated 20 houses were being distributed. And at the time, I think it was the Prime Minister probably speaking, I said it should have been 22. Well, that 22 is the correct figure. But let me explain what has happened, because it seemed to have caused some chatter. There were 18 townhouses, townhouse units, 3 buildings with 6 units each. That's 18. There are 2 houses on the same compound, making it 20. And there were 2 off that site, making it 22. When arrangements were made for persons to come to the event, 20 persons confirmed that they were coming, so that the other 2 were not added because they said only 20 people are coming. 20. The other 2 were not put on. It turned out that on the day of the 20 who promised to come, one of them got sick and didn't come. So if you look at the publication by Wallace Wilkin, you will notice that only 19 persons got keys on that day. But the other 2 persons will get their keys at a different event, so that it's not that there are 2 houses that were not built. There are 22 homes. It so happened that on that day, only 20 people had confirmed that they were going to come.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. We have a question that was put to you, Mr. Attorney General. The person was speaking with reference to being denied for the 6-month grace period.
Yes. I'm not quite certain what that is, and I know the individual, and I invite him to that we get together and have a discussion on this. We have a mutual friend at Port Zante who had mentioned that he had wanted to discuss this matter. I take it has to do in relation to conditions under the certain conditions under stimulus package under the COVID response. And so I would have to find out exactly what the conditions are. So I hear you, Cecil Rock, and we will get together before the end of the week.
We also have a question that was put to you about the penalties for persons trying to enter the country illegally. They wanted to know about a particular event, asking why the person caught was not imprisoned, and also about not necessarily the people who are smuggled in, but the smugglers, if you would contemplate stiffer penalties.
Yeah, I think that's culture, radical culture. There are 3 matters I think that he raised that I should address. And just to preface my answer, and I spent quite a bit of time in my opening remarks, that the country is based on the rule of law, and that therefore that means that there must be consistency in terms of approach and how we handle these matters. If it is that someone is making threats against somebody on the radio, the police obviously should take note and investigate those. If a person is aggrieved by somebody saying something that is injurious to their person, their character, there's of course the court systems that would want you to approach them in a question of defamation. And there the courts will address these matters and deal on them properly. I would tend to think that the police would have investigated any matter, would have carried out their proper investigation, collected information, and once the police has prepared a report, they normally would submit that report to the Director of Public Prosecutions for him to make a determination whether there was sufficient evidence or the need for more evidence to carry that person before the court, the criminal court, and the person tried. I don't know more of this incident. I have no information really to be able to respond specifically to a question of someone being caught as a sniper. And clearly it is a serious matter. And if it is that somebody had been caught in this matter, there should be a file that the police should have opened and the investigations. The last matter that Radical Culture raised had to do with the landing of some 17 Haitians in Nevis last December. I know of this matter. The Haitians had been kept in quarantine until they eventually would have been deported back to Haiti. The boat smugglers, there were 2 members who were arrested and have already had their day in court. They went to court and were sentenced to jail, after which time of serving of their jail sentence, they will be deported back to their home country, which I believe is Dominica. Just to say, Culture, that the whole question of sentencing in court matters, in criminal matters, is not arbitrary, is not unique to one country or another. We are part of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, 9 jurisdictions, and it is headed by Her Ladyship, Dame Janice Pereira, the Chief Justice. And the Chief Justice has established a committee that has worked on sentencing guidelines across the board, whether it's the High Court or at the Magistrates Court level, that are circulated to all of our jurisdictions. There should be, therefore, some uniformity in terms of the process of sentencing people. Not that you have the identical sentence, there could be different circumstances. But in terms of creating sentencing guidelines, these are matters that are done through public consultation. For instance, if one was to go to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court webpage, www.eccourts.org, you'll find that the Chief Justice, there are news items in terms of practice directions that are published by Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, and are circulated to all our jurisdictions to judicial officers. So judges, magistrates, and others have guidelines that they would use depending on the particular matter. For instance, this would have been an article, Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court issues practice direction on sentencing for the offense of murder. This year was slated to come into effect on the 1st of September 2020. And it goes on to say, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court has embarked on the Sentencing Guidelines initiative aimed at promoting and streamlining the court's approach to sentencing across its 9-member jurisdictions. Sentencing guidelines have been issued for murder, firearm offenses, sexual offenses, offenses of dishonesty, and drug offenses. Practice directions have also been issued to guide the sentencing process. And so this is not the only area that her ladyship would issue practice directions to guide how sentencing is done in each jurisdiction. So there is, as it was, guides put out by the court, by the Chief Justice as President of the court, to inform and to have, as it was, some uniformity of sentencing across the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. So that's how I would respond to your culture. I should also say that I've come across on the same website where from time to time these processes to get to guidelines of sentencing are public events. And so they ask for the public to be able to weigh in, to be able to put their views forward, especially stakeholders, and by stakeholders we mean lawyers, representatives, others who have an interest in that, can look and listen out for when these guidelines come up for public discussion. And if you have a very keen interest in this, you have every right to be able to submit your views and your recommendations as to how these guidelines should be managed and how they can be crafted. And these will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I have a question asking, what is Team Unity's official position on the lands bought by Premier Bradshaw? I don't know who would like to take that.
Well, I'm not too clear what the question is, because the land matter is really all settled at this particular moment in time. So there's no issue really to be addressed in relation to that.
Okay, sure.
In 1975, 1976, under the Labour administration of the day, there was the acquisition of all the sugar lands in St. Kitts by the Bradshaw regime, and that stood in abeyance for some years as the monies for the sugar estate owners had not been paid until 1986, when the state then got title. So the lands then passed, the title to the land passed to the state over time. And their land practices, so the Ministry of Sustainable Development, there's land that is acquired from Sustainable by the National Housing Corporation, Human Settlement. And those practices are public knowledge. I think Minister Hamilton earlier indicated how one can make applications to NHC. Applications can be made to Sustainable, to the Land Sales Office, and these are well publicized and published, which form, as it was, how the government would manage the sale of lands to individuals who make applications.
Thank you so much. Mr. Prime Minister, I believe these final two questions are for you. We have somebody asking, what are 3 positives of the Peace Initiative, as well as for an update on the status of step workers and when they will be regularized?
Well, we will shortly make an announcement regarding the regularization of the step workers. In the budget address, we did outline that for the first phase, we will move in regularizing just over 900 plus step workers at a total cost to the Treasury of $16.2 million. If my recollection is perfect. So that is on train. There had been a process that had been executed in terms of persons being assessed, being by the heads of department, and there was also participation by the STEP program leadership in making a determination, and from that assessment, 900 plus persons were deemed ready to move forward. We will begin that process shortly, and at a later date, perhaps on the next edition of Leadership Matters, we will give the firm date for effecting that. While in STEP, we would want to encourage persons to work hard for their money. This is important that we have the right values, that there is no free lunch being provided, and those who are paid are expected to give a fair day's work in relation to the matter of their wages, justifying the youth. The other question was?
Positives from the Peace Initiative.
Well, I think one of the callers tonight spoke about the Peace Initiative. In fact, several of them, I believe, in very commendable terms, very positive in their remarks. One of the callers, a female, said, well, I could now leave my door open and sleep. One of the direct benefits of the peace program has been the significant peace and calm in the country, in contrast to the period before. And I recall in the run-up to the elections in 2015, we had a significant number of persons shot and killed. It was what it was like the Wild, Wild West. Every night almost, people lay awake waiting to hear where will be the next shootout. We had them at our church steps, we had them at our business places, we had them at the strip program. And it took a lot of effort. And we had to properly assess that you couldn't take anything off the table, that those interventions made, that they did not yield the desirable fruits, and we had to come up with new innovations. And the peace program, so-called, is one such innovation. So we can speak to the calm. We could speak to the fact that it has, in a sense, brought freedom to people to move from one section of past state to another, from one community to another, without having to look at their backs. We could speak with joy now for the parents who have their sons and their daughters with them. I recall it was one Carnival Juve Day that a mother met me downtown on the Bay Road in the vicinity of Rams, and she came and she said, Dr. Harris, I want to tell you, continue the good work that you're doing. I have lost my son, she said, to gang, and up to today, I haven't gotten over it. I do not wish that for another mother. It is stories like these, real stories, that in my view tell us how far we have come and why we can't give up. We can't give up in doing the right thing. And that is what we have done. Another positive benefit, you may say, that some of these people who were once described as wayward and all sorts of pejorative names, we are seeing them having turned their life. They have become successful businessmen and women in our country, employing others and contributing significantly to the peace, quiet, and prosperity of our country. So I commend those who are in the forefront in bringing up the idea, working it through, and helping us in the implementation. I want to commend the pastor who was part of this initial management team, the guidance counselor from one of our high schools who took time out to be part of it, the police officers, the bankers, and all those who have contributed. So the Peace Initiative have helped us stabilize the country. And we saw the statistics, how they have moved dramatically from what they were to what they are now. At 10 in 2020, 13 last year, and we're hoping to get them into single digits and ultimately to zero. So we are moving in the right direction, not just as a result of the peace program, but the peace program is part of a comprehensive response to keeping St. Kitts and Nevis safe. And that is why we have expended significant sums. In one budget, we put forward over $99 million, the largest allocation to national security in the history, building new facilities for our police and law enforcement officers, buying transport vehicles to allow them to be mobile and quick in their response, creating new police stations as we did in Sandy Point, as we did in Newcastle, in Nevis, as we did elsewhere in the country, to improve and expand upon our crime fighting abilities. The forensic lab, all those interventions and investments are bearing fruit, and the peace program has been a wonderful supportive program to those efforts. I should say, last time the British High Representative was here in the High Commissioner, they asked and they commended us, and even on this particular program, Mr. Brandy and high officials of our police force have gone to Barbados, make presentation to governments who have shown an interest in our model. And so it is an innovation that has worked so far. We still have a journey to travel in refining it, reconstructing it, and that is a work in progress. This program started just a few years back, and in a few years' time, we are having a peace dividend, and I think we are to applaud all. It is not perfect, and mistakes are being made by some, and we will get all who are participating eventually on the good road. And so I want to again commend and say how happy we are that this program is working, and that all of us in the country, all of us, if we're honest, can say that this program has brought some measure of relief in terms of the crime that was happening in our country.
Thank you so much for that. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll go to the WhatsApp messages. So stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly.
NHC ePay is our online payment platform that allows you to make payments directly to NHC, get access to your account balance, have access to your payment history, and interact with our customer service department through the help desk feature. NHC ePay is secure, sleek, and simple to use. It can be accessed by going to our website www.nhc.kn, using your mobile phone, tablet, or desktop, and clicking on Pay Online. For our existing customers who wish to make payments online, the process is simple. Sign up for ePay. Provide your address and contact number. This information will be used by our customer service department to verify your identity. During the verification process, our customer service department may need to call you to complete the process. Once verified, your account will be activated and an email will be sent confirming your activation. Once activated, you will use the username or the email used during the sign-up and the password to access your account. Once logged in, click on Pay Your Bill to make payments to your account. All receipts of payments made within ePay will automatically be emailed to you, and you will also have access to them via the payment history link in your account. Feel free to use the help desk feature to contact the customer service department on any issue with your account or any other questions you may have related to NHC. We are pleased to make this service available to you, our customers, and look forward to as much customers signing up, which would not only provide 24/7 access to your NHC account, but provide a secure and easy way to interact with NHC.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. This evening, his special guests are the Honorable Eugene Hamilton and the Honorable Vincent Byron. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I'm your moderator this evening. We just closed the phone lines. We took several calls, and I want to thank all the people who called in and participated and contributed to the program. And now we're going to turn our attention to the WhatsApp messages, following which we'll bring the program to a close. We have several messages that have been sent to us. We will try our best to go through as many as possible. And the first question, I think, was already addressed by the Prime Minister in relation to STEP workers and GEA workers. I believe that would cover both. But they also asked why Cuban doctors are getting paid less than doctors who studied at UWI and other universities, and why are the auxiliary workers at Pogson working for minimum wage and their pay was much higher. Mr. Prime Minister?
I would see if I have a response to that one, because there are persons who would usually listen and monitor. What I would say is that there is generally equality of treatment. In fact, I have a response here from the Ministry of Health. There is no truth to that. All appointed doctors receive the same pay. And this is standard. If you work in the civil service, you're a graduate, there is a specific grade in which you will find yourself. And so every graduate, once appointed to a graduate post, will get between K33 and 38. It's gone to say the doctors who are at Dre NF, that is our main hospital, engage in clinical enrichment program, no matter where they were trained before being appointed. So that perhaps is part of the distinction. If you're not yet appointed, you will not be paid at the rate at which those appointed are. And the reason why they are not appointed is that they are still going through clinical enrichment program. And so that is the reason. Once they would have successfully completed then all the requirements for confirmation, then they will be paid at the approved rate. With respect to auxiliary workers, I'm advised that there is no change in auxiliary workers' pay. Only a change in the calculation of overtime based on the regulations. And these regulations were explained by the Labor Department. And you are aware, again, wages in terms of minimum wage, they have not moved. So it's a fixed wage. What has happened, there have been issues with respect to how overtime is being computed. And that has been an issue going on for many years. I remember being many years back in discussion. Does overtime start at 40 hours? Does overtime start after 8 hours of work? And there have been different approaches being taken with respect to that. And what has happened, the Labor Department, which is the appropriate arm of government to advise on labor matters, became involved, adjudicated the matter, and made a recommendation as to how overtime should be computed.
Thank you so much for providing answers to those questions. We have someone who has stated, I would really like to know and understand why in a country of 50,000 inhabitants, certain documents such as deeds have to take over a year and in some instances many years to be completed. I think it is ridiculous. Can someone, maybe the Attorney General, please explain to me why this is so?
Jackie, there has been a period when processing of documents at our registries have been somewhat tardy, and they're right, sometimes it took quite a while. That is why in 2017, we went to Parliament and we passed a law in which we determined to separate the land registry from the High Court registry and have a dedicated land registry, which we have now moved into over the Christmas period. There are a number of different types of deeds, of course. They use the word deeds, but I suspect they're talking about land deeds and title deeds. And there's a distinction between certificate of titles and deeds of land, which are less certain. But the process has greatly improved, and we now boast, especially when it comes to titles, that within 4 weeks to 6 weeks, you can have them processed and be ready once there are no errors in terms of how they're being prepared. So that is something that we are very proud about. We just had the launch of the land registry, a dedicated land registry at the CNC building, and I've seen 1 or 2 repeats on Channel 95 on the TV where this has been explained. We are even prouder of the fact that when it comes to the preparation of those title deeds, that we can now do some of it online. We have digitized in excess of 14,000 certificate of titles that people can go, stay in the comfort of their offices, of their homes if they have the proper connection, and can search the registries to see if their titles are there and what needs to be done. And we are hoping over the next 2 months to be able to actually do transactions to register these documents online. The deeds will take us a little longer because these are more difficult, but we expect that there'll be a third phase later this year when we'll put in a module for you to be able to access a search of deeds online when it comes to land matters. There are other types of deeds, of course, but these are not in the land registry, but these would be in the High Court registry, deeds of trust and other types of financial documents that operate under separate regime.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Hamilton, these next 4 questions are for you. And the person is asking, why does solid waste there's no general manager at solid waste since August 2021, and they're asking, well, this is what they're saying, and they're asking, why isn't an acting GM in place? Why is the chairman currently holding 3 hats, the chair, the general manager, and the board secretary? Isn't that a big conflict of interest? Why are contractors and creditors who are owed from since June were paid for 1 month in December and still currently have months owing if the ships are back when they're not being paid if bankruptcy wasn't declared? And why are garbage collectors now working 10 hours behind garbage in the same hot sun under the same pay?
Thank you, Jackie. For the 4 questions, why solid waste has no general manager since August 2021? The company has an acting general manager as we speak. It was necessary to recalibrate after the loss of the previous general manager. The corporation has done that and in fact has been able to reduce its expenditure from near $200,000 a month down to about $45,000 a month. So we had to recalibrate. In the meantime, advertisement is being put out to get a new general manager, and that will be done very shortly. But I'm satisfied that in the time we took to recalibrate, that we have learned quite a bit about the functioning of the corporation and have been able to bring it under control in a way that is satisfactory to me as the minister, and certainly to the people who are providing the salaries for those who work in the corporation. So I am not unhappy with that result. The result, I think, is a very good one. We're on the way. The second part of it is, well, there's no conflict of interest there because any appointment of an acting general manager is at the pen of the minister, and it is enshrined in the act that governs the corporation. Why creditors?
I think the question is, they're alleging that one person is holding 3 positions at once.
Well,
and that is where they say the conflict comes in.
Well, that is not true.
Okay.
Why contractors and creditors are owed from June, that is also not true. There was a period in 2021 when we were affected by the shutdown as a result of COVID, which caused most of the revenue sources of the corporation to be dried up. The corporation's main source of income was from environmental levy. Environmental levy comes from the tickets, of course, that you purchase to travel. It is included in the cost of the ticket, whether you're flying or you're coming in by boat. The result of the shutdown cost the corporation more than $5 million per year. Any corporation which is down $5 million, the size of which this one is, may have gone under. But this corporation continued to operate every single day and have not missed 1 day of collecting the garbage in the country. And they have done that efficiently and effectively. And they continue to do it. So, so that the person is not properly informed. I noticed that they went on to say, why are the garbage collectors now working 10 hours behind garbage at the same time? And they went on to ask about pay.
They're saying they're now working 10 hours
in the hot sun under the same pay. It was only 2 years ago, maybe 3, when I as minister got cabinet to approve salary increases, wage increases for all of the workers who are working on landfill, the truck drivers and everything. There were no salary increases in the country for any other public servants. They got increased when nobody has got. Took the drivers to a pay that is consistent with what truck drivers are getting around the country. Because I think they were only getting like $8 or $9. I think they're up to $15 an hour now. So that for someone to say that they are working 10 hours without pay, without the appropriate pay, first of all, they are properly paid. I'm not saying that people cannot ask for more pay, but certainly from where they were to where they are now is a significant increase.
Thank you so much for responding to those questions. And I would just like to add that when sending a WhatsApp question, please bear in mind that you should take your time so that I'm able to understand what it is you're trying to say. But I try my best to make sure I get what you're hoping to ask. We have someone here who says, good night to you, Ms. Bryan. I may say Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you too. And good night to the gentleman there. The question is to the PM, and they're saying that the pandemic has done a lot to damage the economy of the island and also businesses, but more so small businesses. So I am asking you, Mr. Prime Minister, is there any plan in place to help small businesses to get back on their feet? Because I would have heard from time to time the unity government asking persons to go into business. So is there anything in place, or will there be anything in place to help?
Well, in fact, there have been a number of things in place since 2020 to help all those who had been significantly disadvantaged by the COVID-19. From fiscal relief, for example, reduce the unincorporated tax, small businesses from 4% to 2% by 50%. We heard Rock Tonight calling about some relief that was offered in terms of, I think, electricity and payments, waiver of rental, when these entities were operating from government entities. We had those concessions where persons would have lost income and they were registered with the Social Security. They receive relief, some form of, I shouldn't say compensation. They receive assistance to the tune of $3,000, $1,000 per year. So there are variety, and I take it that small businesses vary. And if you are, for example, a bus operator and you consider yourself a small business, there's a fuel support of $400 that is made available and continues to be available in 2020. But 2022 budget, we made the decision to extend that fuel support, fuel subsidy, if you will, to certified or approved taxi operators while continuing to make that available to the owners of passenger buses. In fact, in February, first week, we paid over 104 such operators of business. And we will always be open because this is the nature of the government. We want to serve, we want to be helpful to as many people as we reasonably can. And if they can, as a group, come together and put forward some suggestions, then we will certainly, and I will certainly assess them and bring them to cabinet to be able to help where we can. So, in short, relief packages have been made available to a wide category of persons. If there are more support that persons are looking, it would be helpful if they were to put something in writing on behalf of the group and to submit it for consideration. We are open to ideas. Tonight we accepted a wonderful suggestion coming from Jean Howell about putting a committee in place to look at the costing of these houses. And in my view, the mandate could be broad enough to look at all issues, not just rental costs or mortgage costs, but other issues in terms of types, in terms of configuration of these houses. And I'm happy that Minister Hamilton accepted that suggestion and certainly will bring something to Cabinet in the not-too-distant future. So I am open to hear what it is small business needs, so that the small businesses need, so that I could again give active consideration with a view to help. In the meantime, I would want to advise persons to explore options in relation to the income support, in relation to the PAP program. Given COVID, we had removed, as it were, the cap we had put in the processing of applications and literally open it up. In fact, in the budget, we made specific provision to increase the number of beneficiaries, take into account what was happening in the economy. So that, again, is another measure of relief, albeit a temporary relief structure. And I will be interested in policy proposals that we can take forward to the short to the middle term for small businesses. We want small businesses to thrive, and we have had a healthy record, in fact an outstanding record of so many small businesses come in and stream under our watch. Over 4,000 business licenses had been issued under the watch of Team Unity government. And that, to me, speaks volumes about the incentives, about the state of the economy during this tenure of the Team Unity administration.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Prime Minister. We have a message here for you, and it reads, Mr. Prime Minister, you are the best. Anyone who says you are not doing a great job has to be paranoid, grudge, greedy, envious, and selfish. Keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you very much.
I have a question here, and it's about the Compliance Task Force team. The person is saying, I am a part of the Compliance Task Force team. Next month will make a year. My question is, why is it that we are not on the government payroll? And why do we still go to the Treasury for checks? It is very frustrating.
There's a contradiction there, because if you're going for Treasury for checks, it means that you are on the government payroll. So again, you're on the payroll of the government. We are happy that you are, and that the government is reliably and consistently putting money in your pocket, which you have earned. I believe the consideration may be whether or not, and I gather in some cases a number of their timesheets and information reach to the Treasury late, and in this context, the check is what is best being utilized. If the processing of these can be done on time, for example, we have fixed date on which we pay the PAP, we have fixed date on which we pay salary. For those to be effected, the information has to be submitted. We will look at the way in which their services are being monitored to ensure that the processing can be done in a more timely way that would allow the Treasury to do perhaps more timely processing of these. And we certainly, and I will certainly invite the Accountant General to ensure that anyone who has a bank account, that their monies go to bank, if that is their request. And that really should be the preference as we are attempting to reduce the lines at the Treasury. We are attempting to ensure that people utilize the formal systems, and we will therefore only be too happy to pay persons who should be paid by direct payment to their accounts.
This person writes, the question is coming from Easton. Does the Team Unity government have any plans to upgrade the houses that were built by the former government? They're saying this question is for the Prime Minister, but I trust that the most appropriate person will respond.
I will answer this by
Mr.
saying
Minister
yes.
Hamilton.
I will say yes, we make no discrimination. And once there's a housing need, we certainly will seek to address it. In fact, we have been doing that. The Honorable Eugene Hamilton spoke about the experience at the Gardens Housing Project, a project that had become really run down, battered, and really was posing a health hazard to persons. And we went in, I gather from the minister that we spent perhaps close to or maybe over $1 million in rectifying the problem there. That is a project that had been built to administration before us. And there have been other projects that have been affected that way. And we went in and did the necessaries. We launched after the hurricane the most massive renovation and repair program. And that built houses that were built long ago. It covered houses that were built recently. I mean, 3,000 households benefited from that program. And so you know from our stats that we have done several hundred homes. So 3,000 is spanning cross-section of housing construction in the country. And we are happy that we have been able to do that. So that is something, yes, again, is to go back to the idea of team unity. It was that we look beyond the color. It was that we look beyond the party. We see people as human beings, and we render support in accordance with the measure of the government to do so. The Team Unity administration has the best track record of fiscal management in the Caribbean, and we have used those resources to do so many wonderful things to our people. I recall hearing Pastor from, I think it's Tinto or something like that, from East Barstow, Taylor's, speaking about having his home now being repaired, what a blessing it was. He did not have to put a pan on his bed anymore. Stories like these moved us as leaders because we begin to appreciate the helpfulness of the program, how it has changed the quality of life. And when we revisit and we go from constituency to constituency, there have been no discrimination. In St. Paul's we did a wonderful job. And one lady called me and she thanked me profusely. And she said, I want you to know that I am praying for you 3 times. Well, she said twice a day. And I wondered why she wasn't praying 3 times a day. And she told me, I don't pray at lunch because that is the time I go to eat. And I was still happy because at least 2 out of 3 is not a bad record of support with people intervening on my behalf. So yes, we are all there because it is the philosophy to governance, inclusiveness, which I spoke about, the going beyond the party lines that has made Team Unity so attractive. And that is why each of us who know better, who understands better the reality of life, must do all we can to preserve Team Unity, not just for the generation now, but for the generation that will come after us.
That is why you conceded to him. Okay. Noted. Our final question asks if we still have to wear masks, if we still have to sanitize, and if we still have to social distance. And given mass events being allowed now, are those health protocols still expected to be in place at such events?
And we have to be very clear that although there is relaxation on restrictions as the 4th wave comes to an end, and the numbers are very, very encouraging, we are still in a pandemic, and that we can always have another wave. People are still getting sick, they're still going to the hospital, and we now have up to 40 deaths that are related to COVID. More than ever, we have to understand that we now have to change how we interact with each other. We should be wearing our masks at all times. We should be sanitizing. We should be making sure that we avoid crowds if we are not comfortable. Clearly, if you're at home with your family and your families and close friends, that's a different matter. But to be going out into the public in mass events without any mask on, we're caught in disaster. And at any time, we can have a resurge, an upsurge in terms of COVID-related illnesses and deaths. So yes, we are expected to follow the protocols that have been established, that we have become accustomed to, and we cannot afford to lower guard at all. Just one more question on this mass events. We say that we are now entertaining mass events. And this came about because some weeks ago, on the advice of the health experts, we had determined, that is, the task force had made a recommendation to Cabinet, who had made a determination that we would wait until March to consider new applications for mass events. So there was a suspension of any application for mass events. And as the wave came to an end earlier than we anticipated, the health team determined that we could have a new look at this. And it's on that advice that the applications for mass events are now entertained. But the same processes that we have had all along must be adhered to. You have to make sure that there's a proper social distancing. The numbers that are to be entertained in the event must be measured and must be followed. And you're still subject to all of the protocols and to the enforcement by compliance officers and by the police. So we urge, we ask all our citizens to cooperate, all our businesses to cooperate, so that we can maintain, as it was, the health and safety of our country, and also so that we can continue to open up economically and put more people back to work.
Thank you so much. That was the Honorable Vincent Byron, and he was the Prime Minister's special guest on this evening's program, along with the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. And as we bring the program to a close this evening, we'll have the Prime Minister do a wrap-up and have the final say.
Well, thank you very much, Jackie. I want to thank you for being an excellent host, and again for accommodating us. That is myself and two of my cabinet colleagues in the person of our Attorney General, the Honorable Vincent Byron, and our Minister of Human Settlements et al., the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. I feel quite satisfied that tonight was well spent. From the number of questions that came in and the types of questions, I believe that we have been able to better inform, better advise, and better educate the country with regard to matters generally of interest to them, more specifically, and the success of our governance agenda that has been ably led by the Attorney General in terms of the legislative mandate and other such interventions that were required to have us move so progressively and consistently along that path. For me, this is a journey rather than a destination. So it's not that you stop when you reach a particular point, because the world is evolving. The circumstances and the situation dictate that we constantly evolve too in our legislative agenda, in our perspective regarding these efforts. I was very pleased to have had our Minister of Human Settlement, because I believe over the last 2 weeks we have had a lot of rejoicing and a lot of goodwill by the recipients of their homes. And I try to avoid getting into certain debates, because ultimately the processes and things like that are best left to the technicians to advise. The government and the leadership of the country must be concerned more about results and outcomes. And that is what I want to focus on. 22 more families made happier by the distribution of homes. 22 more families are out of rent. 22 more families can house their children in a single space. And so many of those fathers and mothers were longing to have their children with them and couldn't before that distribution was made at Stapleton. Hooray to them, and I congratulate them, I love them, and I wish them all of the best. That is what the government is about. Home ownership is critical. It's part of the property ownership agenda. People owning businesses, which we have facilitated through the Development Bank, to special loans, starting first with a contribution from the Venezuelan government when we made the Fresh Start a reality, and continuing today. Home ownership is part of the dignity that our people deserve, and it anchors our people by giving them a real stake in the land of the birth and the land of residence, and we shall continue in that vein. And that is why on Friday we continue the home distribution. A man's home is his castle. And some criticize whether it is dwelling vertically or horizontally. The reality, it is a home. And around the world, the majority of houses now are not single unit. You're going up apartment style. You're building vertically, because that way you get the best density available for a particular land space. And if you look at it now in Bastia, there's literally no more land. Literally no more land. Central Bastia and East Bastia, gone up to New Road, gone up to St. Peter's. That is where they are at, because there is no more land. We have finite land space, and we have to maximize the utilization of it, and whether it is for housing or for agriculture. Because for agriculture, rather than giving a man 5-10 acres, you want to be able to give a man 1 acre, and he apply the technology. And the science has shown that applying the technology to shade houses, etc., you can get so much more than you would by having extended land. So we are a progressive country in terms of this, and this is where it will go. Somebody asks, well, will we have more of these elsewhere? Yes, we will, because the space is limited, and we have to face that reality. And so that program of having vertical housing structures, apartments, etc., they are required. And we have seen that not now. That is what the garden houses was way back in the 80s. We had duplexes, we had the CHA houses. So there have been a consistent approach in relation to the application of vertical housing, one way of conserving the space and allowing for best utilization. I am happy for all those people who are getting houses. Some people seem to be bitter that 22 people, more families, are put in houses thanks to the Honorable Minister of Human Settlement. So while we are happy, some are sad over the happiness of others, and I find that regrettable. 15 more will benefit on Friday, again thanks to the generosity of the government of Venezuela. And I want to say thank you to them now, and to again congratulate those 15 who will benefit. And then after that we move to Conyers housing, and then we will move around the country building more homes, because we recognize there's a real need. The point, however, though, the government cannot do it alone. And I do not wish that we do it alone. I want to see some of those young contractors in Keon, in Tabernacle, in Lodge, reach to the point after several years of benefiting to the NHC to say, sell me a piece of land at a reasonable price, and I will build on that land several houses and sell them to people from my area and any area and make a profit. In other words, entrepreneurship taking on a new fashion and a new appeal. And we will be prepared to consider a discounted price of land to generate that kind of entrepreneurship where our own local people are becoming businessmen. Minister Hamilton congratulated Dean Daniel for what he's about to do in Keon in the next couple months. And Dean, if you could bring it forward, so much better for all of us. And we have other players. We have TDC. We have Lake at Elko, who are about to get involved in that. And several others, yes? We have the credit union about to start. All of these then will give persons options. You do not want the NHC houses? That's okay. We have high demand there. You want those by Dean Daniel? That's okay. You prefer those by the credit union? That's okay. And again, part of the progress in the country is giving people more options. Team Unity is committed to that. The empowerment, the enrichment of people. I want to close, though, by saying thanks to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, who took a chance on Team Unity in 2015. And then in 2020, based on our outstanding performance, in many areas we gave the country the best record of any administration before us. The best record in fiscal management, in our social safety net programs. We brought on a PAP, did the unexpected in bringing thousands of persons a better quality of life by providing them a $500 top-up each month to help them pay their water, pay their electricity, pay their rent, buy things for their children. That is the Team Unity at work, a compassionate and a caring government. Going back to first principles, we must help those who are most in need. And we had identified the concept, ill-defined before Team Unity, of a livable wage. What does that mean? We never really put a figure, but we appreciated that we must allow the individual to do certain basic things and to preserve their dignity. For many persons around St. Kitts and Nevis, mother, grandmother, our PAP program has been a silver lining in these difficult times, and I'm happy that we have been able to do this. It has been an honor and a privilege for me as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis to have led a team that has produced and that has done so much, not just for the people of St. Kitts, but for the people of Nevis. Repeatedly we have heard from the high officials and the ordinary folks in Nevis, it is the best time for Nevis, thanks to a Team Unity administration. And we will do more. For me, the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis must never be defined by money alone. Never be defined that way. We have to build rich, empowering relationships between the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And while money is part, money is not the answer to everything. Indeed, if it's money alone, when there is no money, there will be no relationship. And we cannot get back there, given the strength of the familial and personal relationships that have been developed. I am happy that we've been able to structure something that has been productive and useful. And I am mindful and conscious that the Constitution, Section 110, defines really how the financial arrangements should exists in St. Kitts and Nevis. Regrettably, after 1983, with the constitutional order, that program started and then it came to an abrupt end. And we must address that. Because the Constitution is the highest, well, the supreme law of the land. And we should always strive to ensure whatever arrangements we make comports well with the Constitution which we have. And so that is something I've shown on the table before. That is something that the Honorable Attorney General and the Cabinet will have to deal with. So a lot has been accomplished by the team. And again, I am happy and humbled by the opportunity. I wake up every morning thinking about people, and I go to sleep every night thinking about the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because for me, Team Unity has always been about people, not politicians. Insignificant they were in this arrangement. I would say that it was the ordinary people, the Mr. Politics, the culture, the Lady Alice down Thibault Avenue, and all those others around the country who night after night, protest after protest, came to the fore, just wanting what was best for their country, their family, their community. They made Team Unity. Long before politicians were prepared to come out of, as it were, the partisan cult of being yellow, red, and then orange, the people were ready. That is why people like Richard Keynes and others, God bless his soul, were on the street demanding attention be given to a Team Unity construct. I want to say thanks to all those who had the vision and faith that a new order, a better option awaited the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that was the option of unity. We have seen it in practice. It is not perfected yet. It is still a work in progress. But seeing it at work for the last 7 years, every reasonable individual must confess it has delivered, it has worked, and there are improvements to come. Those improvements will come with time. The Honorable Vincent Byron said to me when I was leading in the dark days of Team Unity, Prime Minister, we have to be concerned about social justice, and we see it in the expansive social program that we have done. And Rock spoke other attributes, but he talked about social justice and perseverance or resilience. That is what we are seeing reflected. Even in the midst of a crisis of a global nature, never seen in the last 100 or so years, we have been able to weather the storm carefully, thoughtfully, not at the pace and dance of any interest group. And I promise never to be held captive by anyone or any interest group. I will always be held captive by an enduring love and concern for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So thank you, St. Kitts and Nevis, for the confidence and trust that you repose in my leadership and in the cabinet. And I hope to God that we continue to be of excellent service to you, the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you.
Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Timothy Harris. I hope you found this evening's program informative and educational. Leadership Matters is aired right here on ZIZ on Tuesdays at about 8 p.m., so you can look out for the program then. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I was your moderator this evening, and do have a pleasant night.
different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
The symptoms of the coronavirus are similar to those of the common flu or cold, which are consistent coughing and sneezing, fever that does not go away, and difficulty breathing. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms, it is advised